Okay, this is going to be a Hernando point from Florida. I got some more coral here. I think what I'll do, since this is probably all cortex, I'm going to try to crack it in half. So I'll have two pieces for two different arrowheads. Cool. All right, now let's see what we can do. The Hernando point ranges in size. It's early to, well, let's see, middle to late woodland or something, I don't know. Before the invention of the bow, or before the adoption, widespread adoption of the bow, I should say. The dimensions I'm going to use are 35 by 55 millimeter. Or try to get that size. It's going to be close. If I can't get it from this piece, I'll try this piece. But this one has got a curve in it. I like this one, it's straighter. Alright. It's heat treated coral. Now, the pictures I saw of the Hernando point seemed a little bit rough looking, like it was made from raw coral or raw chert of some sort. But if you've ever tried to knap that stuff, it's miserable. Raw coral is pretty miserable to knap. Now, if you want to knap miserable type of stone, and you've had your fill of rhyolite, I recommend raw coral. It's what we call in the business man rock. Yeah, but I would not wish that on my worst enemy. Well, I don't know. It's not that bad, but it's not a fun material. Anyway, I made a couple videos with it, I think. Maybe only one, but I do remember one video I made with raw coral, and I made a stemmed point. No notches. I think it was an Adena shaped point. I'm not sure what I called it in the video. I'm kind of twisted around here on my seating, so let me straighten out. I was doing some rearranging in here. I was thinking of a better system to catch my flakes, but I don't know. Because I kind of let them go everywhere. Some guys use a bucket underneath the flaker. I've tried that, but my flakes go everywhere, so it catches about, I don't know, 50%. I also saw a large basket. I was tempted to get a large basket down here, but it was expensive, so I said no, I'll just deal with it. But I got pieces that fly in front of me about 6 feet, easy. And sometimes they go up high too, and they end up on top of boxes and things that I have stored in here. And it's not really that bad unless it's obsidian or glass. Then it can get kind of dicey. Having a piece of obsidian and glass in a box that you normally wouldn't want any glass, like bedding, sheets or blankets or something. If it gets in that and you don't see it, especially with clear glass, that is not a fun day to find a piece of glass in your bedding the hard way. All right. So, yeah, I might do it. I might be able to do it. 55 by 35 millimeters. I think this is heat treated. It's napping like it's kind of not, but I think it is. The edges feel a little raw, like it was not heated hot enough to make it really glassy, which is fine. Sometimes too much heat is too much. Is, you know, obviously too much, but it makes it too brittle. Okay, so what do I talk about now? I pretty much talked about a lot of issues. I exhausted my topics on my Katako point video. Most of the questions that I get are, where do I find material for free? Now, projectilepoints.net has a resource for the locations of different materials. If you go on their site on projectilepoints.net, they have a resource for different materials and where they are found. Now, I've talked about it before. Where do I find materials? Where do I personally find materials? And where? That's just the question. Where do I find materials? Where? They want to know anything. Any information whatsoever that I can give them. Doesn't matter if it's stuff that I might know. There's resources in Paraguay or Poland or whatever. They don't care. They just want to know where to get it for free. Even if they have to fly across the world to get some. Some people are that desperate. It's not that hard. You just go to a Knapping. What's a Knapping? Are there people there? Are they going to look at me funny? Do they have like requirements of showing ID? I mean, I don't know what people are afraid of. I've never gone to a Knapping where they ask for a background check. So don't be afraid to go to one. The stone that they sell in trade there is not illegal stone. I don't know what to tell you. If you're willing to fly to a different part of the world or contact a buddy that lives in Indonesia and get some agate, I'm sure you could find a buddy that attends a Knapping and try to get some rocks from that guy. I've had guys in the UK ask me, where do I find flint? Where do I find flint? And it turns out they live only 20 minutes from a builder, a mason, who uses flint in the brickwork. Now, I can look that reference up, but I don't think a lot of those businesses are still in operation. They were about 10 years ago. I'm not sure if they source the flint locally anymore. I don't know. I have no idea. But in the UK, there are builders who restore buildings that have flint actually within the masonry. And they get their flint from somewhere. local, because it's, you know, restoration work in most cases. And that sort of thing. Some people don't realize they're right next to a flint or chert resource. I always tell people to go to landscape supply yards. And not the type that sells roses and trees. I'm talking about the landscape supply yards that sell rocks. And they've got huge piles of different kinds of rocks and gravels and stuff like that. Boulders. Some of the landscape supply yards have boulders. And once in a while, you will find in one of their big old bins, it's usually, you know, these bins are usually 10 by 10, and they've got cinder block around them to hold in the different materials, right, on three sides. And they scoop these out with bucket loaders or backhoes, right? You can get a huge backhoe load of rocks for, you know, I don't know what they go for nowadays. It's less than $1 a pound. It's ridiculously cheap. And a lot of that stuff, if you have the right bin, a lot of the stuff in that bin can be knapped, raw, or heat treated. And the type that we have here in Texas is called bull gravel. It's not that great, but it can be knapped, and you can get literally tons of it. They use it for landscaping in hotels, restaurants, and other commercial properties in places like San Antonio, Texas, Austin, all the major cities, Houston. You can see they're using it for landscaping. And there's other rocks that can be used. There's some types of basalt, that can be flint knapped. Fine grained basalt. Now be careful with basalt, because it might look fine grained and it looks like the kind that you can knap, and you try to knap it and you're going, I need a sledgehammer and a jackhammer for this. Is this what you're meaning? And no, that's not the type. You'll know fine grained basalt when you start knapping it. It will knap fairly easily. You don't need explosives, a jackhammer, and 2-inch thick glass goggles to protect your eyes. Fine grained basalt is easy to knap. It's almost like a dacite. It's a volcanic rock, you know. Anyway, I think this Hernando, I've hit on a good material to replicate it, because this is not knapping easily at all. And the pictures that I saw had fairly crude flaking. So I think I'm going to have to do this mainly with indirect percussion, because this is tough stuff. And I had to be careful that I don't create a stack like this in other areas, because I'm going to have to lose a lot of width to deal with that. Let's see, how much room do I have? Well, I still got a little bit of room. Yep, a little bit. Anyway, let's see. Let's say that you've gone to all your landscape supply yards. You went to some knap-ins, but they were small. You got like 600 pounds of rock, and you went through it in 1 month, and all you got was gravel for your garden. What do you do now? And maybe you're out like $400. Travel expenses and food and lodging and all that stuff. What do? Well, you do what appears to be thousands of people that have viewed my napping floor tile video have done. You go out and find some floor tile and nap that. There's various colors, various consistencies, and various hardnesses on the porcelain floor tiles, and they do nap. Just make sure it says porcelain on the back or on the package somewhere. Now they'll try to trick you sometimes in selling you ceramic floor tile, and they'll market it as porcelain. I've only seen that once. So I don't think it's that common, but it does happen, right? And my luck, the first guy that takes my advice is going to walk into a store and they're going to try to sell him some ceramic floor tile. And he's going to go home and all happy, ooh, I got some porcelain floor tile. And he watches my video and he's not able to do anything with the floor tile whatsoever. It's not napping at all. He throws all of his tools across the room. And he wants to now move to Belize because he saw that they have Belize. Belize has lots of flint. Just screw it. No, you don't have to go through that. Make sure you get porcelain floor tile. And it's true that Belize does have lots of flint, by the way. But anyway, look for porcelain floor tile. Either waste. Construction sites will often tear up a lot of floor tile. Or go out and buy some. It's not that expensive. At least not around here. And when you get tired of that, or as you're doing that, you can start saving up a little bit of money to purchase some high quality stuff. Now I recommend getting heat treated material. You'll be so much happier than getting the raw stuff. One thing about narrating during a video is if I'm doing scratching or hitting, it messes with the audio. It changes the pitch or the volume. So I cannot talk over these noises. I cannot talk over these scratching and hitting noises. Or my voice volume starts going up and down, or it messes with something that causes the voice volume to change. So it kind of interrupts my train of thought. Just so you're aware. If I lose my train of thought, or if the sentence goes off somewhere weird, then you know why. I have known some guys that they want to learn on raw stone. They refuse to get anything good quality or touch the good quality stuff until they have learned to master poor quality raw stone, and they insist on doing it that way. They think they must pay their dues in hard, very difficult, very frustrating rock. No. You do not have to do that. Anyone that recommends that you do that is laughing at you. Seriously. And if they're not, they've got a weird sense of humor. Right? I mean, That didn't sound right. If they are serious and and don't laugh, that you are going to frustrate yourself with extremely hard material. I guess they like to see people suffer. That's why I say it's a weird sense of humor when you like to see people suffer. I don't know if that made sense, but I think you know what I mean. Now, have I known people to advise other people to start with very difficult stone? Yeah, but I didn't know them personally. I've seen comments in forums, and they'll say something that if that's all you have, then nap it. And I think I'm guilty of saying that too. If that's all you have, and you don't have any money, or you can have a ton of money, you just don't want to spend it, which is fine too, on stone, then go ahead and nap the stuff you have, even though it'll cause you to age 10 years before your time, or take 10 years off your life in stress. But I do not recommend it anymore. If I ever did, I think I might be guilty of doing that, just because of the expediency. Just because telling people that is quicker than giving them the whole spiel on you need to attend a Knapping or get on a forum or post on Facebook that you want Flintknapping materials and yada yada yada. Okay. The dog started barking. I lost my train of thought, so sometimes we have walkers around and they try to talk to the dogs over the fence. And they go nuts. They can't see through our fence. We have a solid, we have two types of fences, masonry and metal. They can see through little places. Once in a while there's a crack between the metal, a seam where they can see, and they all congregate in those seams where they can see out. And there happens to be a seam right here near the shop. Lucky me. Right on the corner of the property. They can see out because where the two pieces meet in the corner, there's a crack, and they can see, and they're right there, right next to my shop. So anyway, what to talk about? And even though I mentioned the tactics on where to find stone, I still get that question at least once a month, if not more. Oh, you're so lucky to have access to all this stone. Where do I get it? Can you send me some? Just a little bit. But the good stuff, so I know what I'm doing. Because if you send me the bad stuff, I'm thinking that's the good stuff. blah, 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 blah. Yep, I know. I can't send you anything because my good stuff is dwindling. The supplies are getting expensive and lower in quality. And I'm having to spend more time on the road getting what I need. So it's not that I don't want to give you any, it's I'm trying to get some myself. And I'm lucky enough to have a lot of people who support my channel by donating rocks and stuff, which I appreciate very much. So you'll have to do something similar. You'll have to figure out a way to get your supply chain set up, or you'll have to go to modern materials like floor tile and glass and ceramic. Porcelain, I mean. You can knap porcelain items like porcelain insulators, porcelain dishes sometimes, casserole dishes and stuff like that. They are expensive, right? But you can knap them. I've got one porcelain dish with it's a casserole dish that has a cover on it that someone broke the lid on and didn't tell me and threw it away, and I could have napped the lid. Oh, just to see how it worked, because I mean, I've got some of the lids are I have got more than one of those types of dishes, right? Some of the lids are dinged on the edge, and I can see, ooh, that's a nice conchoidal fracture on that porcelain. Man, I wish I had that lid that someone broke so I could test it out. Nice white porcelain casserole dish. You'll have to go to that if you can't get stone. All right, now these aren't well made, it says in the book, or on the website, I mean. And 5 millimeters is a good thickness for this. Right, so 5 millimeters, translating into inches, it's less than a 1/4 inch. Right? Yeah. Now to get this down to less than a 1/4 inch is not going to be easy. But we'll see what happens. Really got to go for the gusto here. I gotta. This is risky. Some of you guys are saying, I want to nap some coral. I want to nap some coral. Well, it varies in quality. It's not always good. It's nice to look at, but I would recommend the heat-treated agate over this any day, and it looks similar. I've been tempted also to buy those Jasper arrowheads from India and rework those. I tried it, I think, one time, long time ago, and the Jasper quality is terrible. And I did not heat treat it, but I did buy one of those cheap pendants made of Jasper from, I guess it's from India, and tried to rework it into a Native American style arrowhead instead of the generic pendant style that they make. But those guys are experts at dealing with that material, and they knap it with steel tools, and they're pretty amazing. I can't do anything with it. Well, I couldn't with that piece that I had, but this was years ago. I might be able to do it now. If there's any of you out there that are doing that, that's one option too. You can buy these pendants for cheap. These Jasper pendants, and rework them. Of course, you can buy agate slabs. I just found, I had some that I heat treated. I found one that I heat treated. I don't know why they get lost so easy. I heat treated two little slabs of agate that you can buy for aquarium decorations, these little slabs. And they will nap. They will nap very well if you heat treat those. And I lose them. I don't know where I put them. I feel so dumb. I say, ooh, this is good. I got something for video, and then I put it down somewhere, and it disappears. Okay, so I flattened one side. Now I got to tackle the other, and this is where it gets risky. More risky than the last pass, because now it's thinner. So yeah, now it's thinner. At least I don't have a lot of step fractures. Right? If it stacks on this side and step fractures, I'd be in pretty rough shape. I might have to develop that edge better. Bevel it a little bit or something, because I'm going to be hitting this really hard, and I need those platforms to be very strong and at just the right angle. Now, do I know exactly what angle it is? No, I don't. So when I say just the right angle, I'm actually guessing. Guessing and crossing my fingers, hoping that I'm putting enough of a bevel on here. Yeah. With steel, it's easy to push off on those step fractures. I haven't done that technique with copper yet. I imagine it's easy with copper as well. If you get a step fracture, you just put your tool on the step fracture and push off. Sometimes you can get it to release a flake and take care of that step, or take care of 80% of it. You're still going to have a little bit of a step there. But it's much easier to deal with when it's not as drastic. Okay, now how do they do this with abo tools? With much pain and suffering. And I'm not kidding it. I mean, there's a lot of times where you can see that the old flint knappers had a hard time. There's lots of stacks and step fractures and weird edge contours. They're not straight. It's not symmetrical. Stuff like that. Okay. Now there's not much inward force on these. It's kind of a downward force mainly, but there is some inward force. Now if I was using Abo tools, I would be developing much bigger platforms and trying to thin it way down before I get to this stage, and not try to conserve material like I'm doing now. You know what I mean? I wanted to use the most I could out of that piece. You know, when I start out with a chunk like this, I want to use the most material that I can out of this chunk. If you're using Abo tools, you're going to have to develop platforms that will allow you to thin it down in the early stages, and you're going to lose a lot of material. So that's why you see a lot of Abo preforms, or actual artifacts that are preformed with large bifaces. The biface, like for a Clovis, I was surprised at how large the biface for a Clovis preform is compared to the final product. I think the Galt site in Texas has some, and that's where I get my information from. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it happens at least sometimes, where you need to start with a large piece. Now, can I do this? Can I conserve on material with Abo tools? Yeah, and it depends on your skill level, right? It's rewarding to be able to do it, but man, it is a high price to pay. You're going to actually use up a lot of material. It sounds funny, but you're going to use up a lot of material learning how to conserve it. Your payback is much further down the road. It's not an immediate payback. You're going to have to go through a lot of material to learn how to conserve it. It's almost better that I don't focus on what I'm doing, because this is really risky. You know what I'm saying? I should keep talking and doing this while I'm talking, so I'm not like sweating. I'm sweating some of these hits. This is such a nice piece of material. Alright, so that's as thin as I dare to go on the video. Let's see if I'm less than 5 millimeters. I think I'm pretty safe. I'm right at 5, right? Maybe at 6 right there. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, I'm okay with those step fractures. Now all I have to do is notch it and do the edge work, a little bit of edge work. Let's see. I looked that up before I started. I did look this one up. I'm just trying to remember if there's serrations on this. I think there are on some of them. But the notes on this type of point are, it's well made. That's the main thing. And even well made, they still have bold flaking, like they were having a hard time and using raw stone. That's my Facebook notification, in case you're thinking it's yours. I need to turn that off. But I keep forgetting. And for those of you who try to get in contact with me through Facebook, I usually don't get on Facebook to talk to people. I just took down a bunch of my photographs, actually. I was going to try to get away from using Facebook because of censorship. I'm opposed to censorship, but then I censor myself, right? It doesn't really make too much sense. But anyway, I apologize if you've tried to get in contact with me through Facebook and I haven't responded. Now that I'm on the subject. Okay. I don't want to lose that nice white tip on there, but there's a thick spot on the tip that I wanted to get rid of. Alrighty. Yeah, the coral can be unpredictable, so I won't mess with it too much. I can't remember if they were finely serrated. So I'm just going to get rid of the dull spots. Right, with a Hernando point, the base is flat, right? So you just need some notches in there and that's it. There's a related point, citrus I think it's called, that's got a convex base. That's the main difference, right? I guess that's the only difference. Now the width on the stem is important. I think it's going to be in that little dark point, right? I think the width on the stem is 7 to 9 millimeters. I could be wrong there. All right, it fits well in this. I'm just going to make it so it'll fit well in this. Okay. Now it says these notches were V-shaped or U-shaped. And I probably should bring my computer in here and set it up so I can look at the references online at the same time I'm napping. That would be the smart thing to do, I guess. But I don't want to bring my computer into the shop and get a piece of flint stuck in there somewhere. behind the keys or whatever. I'm just paranoid about ruining my stuff. Murphy's Law and all that. If it can happen, it will happen. I'm not that bad, but I would have to keep looking back and forth between the computer screen and the knapping. I suppose I can do that. Let's see, I could try using a narrow notcher. That'll dull it really quick. Let's see, I could use this one. Sorry for that, for you guys who are trying to sleep to this, that the file noises must be quite annoying. And that's why I don't label these as ASMR videos. Because I watch ASMR videos, and this is not the type of video I watch for that. In fact, I'm extremely picky about the ASMR videos that I watch. 99% actually give me anxiety instead of relieving it. All right, so I think these basal corners are kind of rounded. I might have overdid it a little bit. Anyway. There was a time where I thought maybe I could actually attract more viewers to my channel by making these intentionally ASMR type videos. By controlling the audio, making sure the sounds are just right. Making sure I don't make scratching noises with the files, or make sure the dogs are not going to interfere and make noises in the background. But I said no. It would change the whole focus of the channel, I think. Or at least it would mix it up. Where I would get strange comments once in a while, and I still do get some strange comments, but I can just imagine what they're going to be like if I do that. If I start introducing ASMR videos into the mix. Anyway, some of you guys can tell me how deep these notches are supposed to go. They didn't look too far on the photographs I saw. I still have that notch there, but I think they're not very deep. I just can't remember how wide they are. All right, so I did say we're going to fit this shaft. There's enough room for hafting material, like wrappings, but the stem is kind of narrow. At the top of the stem, it's 10 millimeters. Yeah. At the bottom of the stem, it's like 11 millimeters by 9. So it's still kind of wide, but I think it'll work. And it's going to be translucent. Yeah, nice. Oops, step fractures. Just pretend there aren't any. Okay, so there you go. I went off on some tangents trying to figure out what to talk about in this video. If I discuss my technique every single time, these videos are going to be extremely repetitive, right? Because what's my technique? Opportunistic. And eventually sequential. I am going to do sequential flaking more and more as time goes on. And maybe learn how to focus these shots. So yeah, I like getting a little bit of a different coloration either on the base or the tip. That's pretty cool. So there you go, Hernando point. The citrus is going to be convex, on the convex side. Hernandos are straight across or fairly straight. Okay. And it isn't at little dart point as far as I know. It was phased out once the bow was widely used. Or maybe it got smaller. There are smaller Hernando points than this. Okay.